When you think of Singapore, you probably picture this hyper-modern, incredibly efficient nation. But it's facing this monumental problem that's kind of hiding in plain sight: trash. A truly staggering amount of it. What's happening right now is a race against a ticking clock. And the solution they're building, it could honestly redefine the future of waste for the whole world. This quote from Cherry Ann Lynn Santos, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? She's a domestic helper, and she talks about going shopping in her condo's dumpster for things to send home. She finds stuff that's brand new, sometimes with the price tag still on. It's just one person's story, but it points to a much, much bigger national habit. And here's the scale of that habit. In a single year, Singapore generated 7.67 million tons of waste. Now, that's a hard number to picture, so think of it this way. That's enough trash to fill 3,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This isn't just a few wasteful people. We're talking about a systemic issue. So, let's actually put a name to this. We're going to kick things off by digging into what's really behind Singapore's deep-rooted throwaway habit and see how it became so normal. So, what exactly is a throwaway culture? Well, it's more than just being wasteful. It's a whole mindset where tossing out perfectly good things is just normal. It's all driven by that constant itch for something new, something more convenient, and it's all propped up by products that, let's be honest, just aren't built to last. So what's really pushing this? Well, it kind of boils down to three key forces. First up, you've got the constant pull of consumerism. The latest phone, the newest fashion trend. Then that's made even worse by something called planned obsolescence, where companies literally design their products to break or go out of style. And the glue that holds it all together? Sheer convenience. It's just become way easier to toss a broken toaster and buy a new one than to even think about getting it repaired. Okay, so this throwaway culture has some very real, and I mean very urgent consequences. And as we're about to see, for Singapore, those consequences are being measured by a landfill's ticking clock. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about recycling? That's the obvious solution, right? But here's the really shocking part. Take a look at this. Singapore's overall recycling rate has actually dropped over the last decade. It went from 60% down to just 50% today. So with all the awareness campaigns, what is going wrong? Let's just zoom in on plastics for a second, because they're one of the biggest problems. An incredible 94% of all plastic waste in Singapore is not recycled. That means only a tiny 6% actually gets turned into something new. It's wild. And a huge reason why those recycling numbers are so low comes down to this: 40%. That's the contamination rate in Singapore's blue recycling bins. Just think about it. You toss a half-full soda bottle or a greasy pizza box in there, and that one item can ruin the entire batch of clean stuff. And when that happens, the whole lot often just gets thrown out as regular trash. This all leads to a really critical question. If only half the waste is even put up for recycling, and a lot of that gets contaminated, what happens to the millions of tons of everything else? Well, the answer is it gets burned. Singapore has these advanced waste-to-energy plants that incinerate trash. It's an efficient way to generate electricity, sure, but it leaves behind a massive byproduct: 2,000 tons of ash every single day. And all of that ash has to end up somewhere. Its final destination is a place called Simacau, an offshore landfill that is, quite literally, the end of the line for every piece of trash in Singapore. And here it is. This is where the clock is ticking the loudest. At the rate we're going, the Simacau landfill will be completely full by 2035. That's not some distant, abstract future. That's just over a decade away. Singapore is literally running out of space. So the billion-dollar question is, what happens then? Now, a hard deadline like that forces you to radically rethink the entire system. And that brings us to Singapore's really innovative answer, moving away from the old throwaway model and towards something called the circular solution. This slide really breaks down the huge shift in thinking. For decades, we've all lived in a linear model. You take resources from the earth, you make something, and then you dispose of it. Simple. The circular model flips that completely. It's about designing things from the very beginning to be reused and recycled, creating this closed loop where ideally nothing ever becomes waste. And this is the big idea behind it all: the circular economy. The key thing to get here is that it's proactive. Instead of just trying to figure out what to do with a mountain of trash at the end, you design the entire system to eliminate waste and pollution right from the start. You keep valuable materials in use for as long as you possibly can. So how does this actually work in the real world? It's basically a three-step approach. It all starts with design, making products that are actually built to last and are easy to fix. Then you have to circulate, building the systems to keep all those products and materials in use through things like recycling and refurbishment. And finally, you have to actively eliminate, finding ways to just cut waste out of the system entirely, like getting rid of all that unnecessary packaging. Now, this isn't just some nice theory on a PowerPoint slide. In this last section, we're going to see how Singapore is actually building this circular future right now. Let's look at the concrete steps on its path forward. You can see this has been a real journey of escalating action. It started kind of small back in 2007 with agreements to reduce packaging, but now, in 2024, it's become mandatory for big businesses to handle their food waste properly. And look ahead to 2025, a 10-cent deposit is coming for beverage containers, which creates a really powerful financial reason for everyone to recycle. And we're already seeing some incredible results from this. I mean, look at construction. A staggering 99% of materials are being recovered and reused. In food waste, pilot programs are turning trash into valuable compost. Even e-commerce is getting involved with new guidelines to tackle that mountain of packaging waste before it's even created. This is real, tangible proof that the circular model isn't just a nice idea. It actually works. So we end on this final thought. Singapore is building the infrastructure for a future without waste, a truly circular system. But here's the thing. A system is only as good as the people who use it. The policies are changing, the technology is here. So the final, critical piece of this whole puzzle is whether our daily habits are ready to change too.